Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Weird World Podcast. I'm Carrie.
I'm Dean.
Hi, Dean.
Hi.
This is going to be part 3.
And final.
And sure about that?
Positive.
Okay. Of the, you said it, Annecy or
Annecy. Annecy. I mean, you know how the French sort of elide some vowels in between. It could be Annecy, but Annecy. Mystery. This so in part 1 we talked about this horrific murder of a.
Hold on one sec.
Yes, go ahead. You're going to do a warning.
Yeah, I'm going to do a content warning for violence, bad things happening to children.
Yes,
and also this is the third part of a 3-parter. So if you haven't heard the other 2 parts, go listen to them. If you want to take a break, you don't have to.
To catch you up, I'm going to give you a little bit of the rundown of what we did in part. Mm-hmm. In part 1, we talked about this horrific crime that happened in Annecy, France, a lake near the Swiss border. And it involved a family and a cyclist who appeared to be potentially just a wrong place, wrong time kind of witness to this and got killed as collateral damage. In the second part, we met this mystery motorcyclist who was a motorcyclist dressed all in black who was up there. And it sure seemed to a lot of people like that could be the assassin. Then we learned that the French investigators were focusing on Saad al-Hili's brother, Zayed, who they had some serious family disagreements, and they thought he was after the family money. England, though, thought, oddly enough, that Sylvain Mollier, the cyclist, was actually the target. So they focused on that. And the French police did as well and found a few people. And then we kind of went through these theories, like, is it a serial killer? Was it this guy from the French Foreign Legion who had some problems in the area? Was it this dude who his cell phone pinged right there near where the murders took place, and they found a bunch of guns? He was kind of a gun nut. There was just a lot of enthusiasm for those people, but one by one, they all fell away. They even found the motorcyclist, and a lot of people were like, okay, what's going on here? What were you doing there? He lived fairly far away in Lyon, but looked into him and once again found nothing to connect him to any of the victims of the crime or the crime itself. So it just seemed like just one after another, each avenue of the investigation falling away. And that's what we'll start now with part 3, where we'll finalize kind of the investigation and then talk about here's maybe the couple of dominant theories and kind of our own take, and by our I mean mine, on what probably happened.
I'll give you my take.
Okay, yes. But I'll give you what I think and tell me what you think.
Okay.
So the investigation has gone on for years. It's basically a cold case now. Remember, it occurred in September of 2012, where the 2 girls involved were ages 4 and 7 at the time. So they're growing up, and they were technically witnesses. Remember, Zainab was badly injured. She was shot in the shoulder and beaten terribly. Zina survived by hiding under her mother, was unharmed, but is also only 4 years old, and it's hard to say that she saw anything at all.
Yeah.
But, they're growing up. Their memories are coming back to a certain extent. Zainab, the older one, is able to give some kind of just disoriented images or disconnected images and these fleeting kind of memories that she's having as in about 2020 or so. She said she remembered being outside the car and that her parents were yelling for her, "You get inside the car," which made a lot of sense given what happened. But that's kind of about it at first. And then on April 1st in 2020, so this is now almost 8 years after the murder.
So wait, I'm assuming after she recovers a little bit.
Yeah. She's able to give those early memories I just mentioned. That I think those took place not too long after when she's still young.
So it was just they were yelling at me to get back in the car.
Exactly, and I was outside the car when these bad things are happening. And then she was, it's likely we'll talk about what the timing of what I think probably happened.
Okay.
Zainab, though, in April 2020, so she would now be like 15 years old. She remembered something else. She said she almost like a flashback. She remembered a man grabbing her, and she said she could see his hands. And that he had these like badly bitten fingernails. She said he's at most you can tell he's like average size, but she really couldn't say anything else.
Yeah.
So,
how does a 7-year-old judge the size of an adult man?
Yeah, that's very difficult.
Anyway. Yeah.
Well, probably against her father.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Over a year later after that, she remembered some more. She added a few more details. She said, the man had these bitten nails, but she could also see his hands and see his arms or something. So she said he was fair skinned, and that as her parents cried out for her to get into the car, the man shot her in the shoulder and then beat her with a gun, which we know occurred to her. she said that she thought he was wearing leather pants and a leather jacket, and then she lost consciousness.
Okay.
Which sounds a little bit like a motorcyclist, but again, we know that the particularly black motorcyclist almost certainly had nothing to do with it, we think. But he's still a viable suspect at this point, although they had more or less cleared him by this point. In 2021, Zena started to have some memories of her own. So this is now about 9 years after she's something like 13. The attacker, she said, was bald, said he was white. He was a male of something like 45 to 55 years old, and he was, quote, badly shaven. She said he had blue eyes, gray hair, and kind of a round face. She thought she saw the man while staring out of the car window. We'll talk about a little bit more of that later when we talk about the crime, but I will say now that memory is such an insanely tricky thing.
Absolutely. And that's a crazy amount of detail from a 4-year-old.
Yes. Now, 9 years later almost.
Yeah.
She's saying that
she's seen
still just 13.
Much in between. That's so hard.
It's tough.
Yeah.
The Zainab's memories, though, of her being outside the car and the parents yelling at her, that has the ring of truth to it. But the other stuff and the details, I mean, you have to consider that there's probably tenuous memories at best. We know how tricky memories are. And they do, they can rise from the subconscious, and that's particularly true when they're associated with trauma. And we also know that the memories can be manufactured. When everybody hears that, they think it's ridiculous. And when I first heard that many, many years ago, it does sound ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense, but that's how memory works. You manufacture memories. It's not a video recording.
Yep.
It's not a playback tape. There's no such thing.
And I have memories that I don't know, was I really there? Or do I remember it from all the stories told about a certain event or a certain thing?
Or just the way you play it back in your mind, and when you imagine how someone looks. That could be locked in. You can think of that as memory. Really, it's just your mind's eye making up the appearance of the man who did these bad things to your family, especially Zena.
Yeah.
So should we trust that fairly vivid description? No idea.
Yeah.
But I'll say this. It could be accurate, but it could absolutely just as likely be completely accurate. So it'd be a mistake to say, okay, we have to find someone who looks like that.
Right.
The sequence also doesn't make sense a little bit. Her parents would almost certainly have been dead for Zainab, I should say. When Zainab was shot, it makes a lot of sense for her parents to have been dead already. And certainly when she was beaten, because it's all but certain that the reason she was beaten is because the gun jammed.
Right.
There's no other logical outcome for that.
Well, here's my thought.
Yeah.
When she was shot in the shoulder, she could very well have lost consciousness.
Yes.
And then he shot everybody else and then realized, and maybe she started to come to, and that's why he went and had to.
That's very possible. And then the gun jammed the last time he was shooting at the people in the car, or maybe he went to shoot at her prone.
Yeah.
And she may not have lost consciousness. She may not remember because it's a very traumatic situation.
Yes.
So he could have shot her, then to stop her from running away, and then he could have shot all the people in the car, and then he could have turned back to shoot her. The gun jammed, so he beats her.
Yeah. It's
possible. Remember, in her memory, she said she remembered being beaten. So there's something wrong there. The sequence doesn't make sense to some degree. It could be almost right, but it's probably not completely right.
Yeah.
To some way, she's conflating these events, and she's probably misremembering or remembering things that she really maybe can't remember. In other words, she remembered her parents for sure yelling at her to get into the car. At some point, she was shot and beaten. We just don't know what the sequence was.
Yeah.
It probably really doesn't matter, but Zena's memories, I think they're pretty suspect.
Yeah.
For this reason. There's no way she'd be staring at the window.
No, I don't
because
think
then she's seen. He's shooting at fairly close range. Before he shot the kill shots in the head were right there. He's shooting right into the window. The initial shots were through the window. He wasn't that far away. If there's a little girl looking out the rear window at him on his side, which would have to be, there's no question he sees her and she's dead.
He would have killed her,
He would have absolutely killed her. So I hate to say this. I think Zena's memories are completely manufactured.
I do too. I don't think she saw him probably at all.
Ever at all. She has no idea what he looks like. She probably imagined this awful person that did this from and maybe she heard about from Zainab's memories where he said he was fair skinned, and so she just sort of added details to that.
Or her brain just made up what the bad man looked like.
Exactly. Yeah. Of course, during the investigation, there's also my personal favorite investigative tool. You know that as profiling.
Oh.
The world's most overrated investigative technique.
I thought you were going to say?
What?
Psychics.
Psychics would be that. I am sure there were psychics involved with this. I didn't run across them in my research, and I wouldn't mention them anyway, other than to make fun of them and what damage they do by telling traumatized people they can help them when they know they can't. So, police profilers in 2020 released their conclusions that the killer was, quote, let me do that. Police profilers in 2020 released their startling conclusions that the killer was male. What? Between 30 and 40 years old, either out of work or poor. Okay. He lived alone. He was a loser. They said something like, I can't remember the exact words, but like he was, unsuccessful and things like that. And, like he was this failure. He collected guns and he had committed previous crimes. Thank you so much, profilers. You've just solved the case. Yeah. It's just not helpful. That does absolutely nothing for you. It's simply following the data to describe the average bad guy who would do something like this. Yeah. It's just data. I mean, if investigators narrow their search based on that, they're making a mistake. If researchers or investigators use that to hone in on a specific person, they're making a mistake. Yeah. They don't have. It's not evidence. It's not positive evidence of anything at all. No. And it could cause you to overlook the actual killer if they don't fit this, profile, which is just based on statistics. Yeah. It's probably a good description of that person, but it's just based on stats. Profiling is great for criminal scientists, people who study crime. Yes. It's very useful. It does absolutely nothing for an investigation. It's not evidence. It's just a summary of what the person is likely like, but it's not. So even if you do find that person and he fits that profile, so what? Yeah. You haven't helped. Again, if you narrow it to those people, absolutely just foolish. And if you do find someone and he happens to be like that, could you use, the profiler said so that's positive evidence he's guilty? No, of course not. So it's the dumbest thing that has become such a, consider this incredible useful tool of investigations, because it just isn't. So there was they did get some more evidence, or they kind of fine-tuned the evidence they had. So the gun, the Luger, they really researched that. Remember, they knew it was an old gun. They actually were able to trace it to a gun that was made in or a batch of guns that were made in 1935. It was part of a run of 940 identical records. But back in 1985, they just didn't have records and registrations and things like that, so it didn't really help them that much. But they were able to fine-tune what evidence they did have. They were never able to find the gun, though, and they never found someone who possessed a gun that could for sure be, matched to that run of guns. So anyway, but that's helpful, because if you did, and you find somebody, and you have a record or something like that, or you were known to have a gun that fits this thing, that could actually be suggestive and helpful. It's not determinative, but it's helpful.
Do they require guns to be registered?
Back then, I doubt it.
Okay.
They could have. I don't know. I don't know how well with records they could have traced guns that were distributed or sold in 1935.
Oh, no, I mean in 2012.
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay.
Probably. Yeah. Probably. Yeah. I'd be shocked if they don't have gun registration for everybody who owns a gun.
Also that might just
Switzerland.
That might just be with new purchases. Mm-hmm. So if you have an old gun from your grandfather from 1935, do you have to register it if it works?
I bet you do. I bet you do. In England, I know you do.
You do? Yeah. Okay.
So
there's probably still a lot of people who don't.
But in Switzerland, where this gun was issued, they're a little more free with guns, and it's easier to own a gun in Switzerland. But I don't know, but I would be shocked if you didn't have to register those weapons, because it's a civilized society.
Yeah.
They had some experts at the French army looked into this and helped out the investigators, and they were asked to sort of take a look at the case in 2023, and they also provided kind of a perp profile of their own. They said they felt the killer would have had special forces training of some sort. So they're looking at it from like, what would this person be like? Not so much, how old was he and that kind of thing. They said that his use of close-range headshots told him this, and that he had shot down on his victims, which is apparently, or at least according to this report, it's like thought of some kind of a, special agent shooting method or something like that. And again, I'm not trying to be super negative here, but that's just ridiculous.
You shoot wherever your victim
is. Good Lord. Because he's shooting down on them. They oh God, what's the phrase? They use like a special phrase for it. It's like I can't remember. I'm going to mess it up, but it's a downward shoot method. It's like it's some kind of special skill that only specially trained people would know. It's just it sounds ludicrous. I don't know. I don't know what induced them to write that, but it sounds. I shouldn't say that because I haven't read the report, but it just doesn't. It doesn't seem like it's super helpful.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like, to me, it doesn't seem like it speaks to any kind of training whatsoever. And it's not like they're the know-all, be-it-all. They just, there's very little we know. Yeah. We just know they were shot downward in the head, which is, he's standing right there. He's right outside the car. To shoot them in the head, that's to ensure that they die. So, that not only doesn't say that he was some kind of special forces training, but it doesn't even say he's any kind of professional. It just says he's smart, quote unquote, enough to shoot them in the place that is most likely to kill them. Yeah. Which is anybody who's watched TV could have done that. So, and also, by the way, he shot repeatedly through the windows in the way. They remember there was tons of bullets through the windows. That doesn't sound super, special forces and ninja to me at all. And the car was stuck. It was stuck in the sand. Yeah. It wasn't that difficult to kill them. The family is basically helpless, and he shot them in the head again for the obvious reasons. I would say he's a fairly accurate shot, but to me, it doesn't sound like he's some kind of Army Ranger.
Yeah.
He also, by the way, failed to kill the 7-year-old witness. He left alive a 4-year-old witness, so he wasn't smart enough to open the door and check and make sure. He used a really, really old weapon. It just sounds like someone with elite training would have a new, very much more modern weapon than that.
I would think so too.
I don't know. I don't. To me, he doesn't sound like you have to go now. Let's go look at ex-special forces.
Yeah,
which is what that report kind of implied.
Yeah.
So it seemed like an overreach by the French Army investigators. And the most we can say is that the killer had access to a gun. He knew how to handle a gun. He's a pretty accurate shot. So anybody, this was issued to Swiss police and Swiss soldiers. Everybody in Switzerland has to go do their 2 years or 3 years, whatever. Could have been anybody from Switzerland, or just anybody who had or a French person who had, whatever, early Army training at the most.
Did they ask Switzerland for help?
I'm sure they did. Okay. They were working through, Eurojust at the time.
Oh, okay.
So they probably did.
Yeah.
So the investigation goes on. They did have the DNA, a couple of DNA samples that they couldn't identify from the crime scene. And they had some DNA samples, all by the way, on the broken pieces of the gun butt that the killer had left behind. Again, another reason to believe this killer was not some kind of professional, because he left pieces of, remember, he broke the gun butt on when he was beating Zainab. Yeah. If you're a pro, you pick up those gun pieces. Right. You probably even pick up your shell cases. He didn't pick up a single shell case.
Yeah. I would think that's all going to be Zainab's DNA. Did they test anything?
Yeah, I'm sure they tested against Zainab's, and they found that it was unidentified DNA.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't mean for sure it was the killer, but it very well could have been.
Well,
who knows? You never know how.
Genetic genealogists on this.
Yeah, let's do that. I don't know if they've done that.
No.
What?
Are we in France?
This is France. Yeah, they don't have that?
Nope.
Damn it. They did reenactments, and they also conducted in I think it was just last year, late last year, like October of 2024, they went to the scene of the crime and did like a whole reenactment, try to figure out, what would have happened, but it's just guessing. Yeah. It isn't really. So as of this day, they are no closer to solving the case than they were in 2012.
Yeah, that's too bad. They really should do a nationwide campaign, get everybody to do their DNA.
Sure. That sounds very workable.
Submit it to GEDmatch.
Absolutely.
And then we call CC
Let's start that ball rolling. Consider this right now, the call for that. Our listeners in Europe, and at least France and Switzerland, go give your DNA to police right now.
No, they don't have to give it to the police.
Or after you finish listening to the episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's illegal to get a DNA test sent to you in France.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn. Karen knows all about that.
I do.
Stuff. So the primary theory by the French, again, is still I think, they've never really formally cleared him. It's just it just seems like it's a dead case, not a cold case. There's not really much is happening. My guess is, though, the French still think that Saad al-Hili is a possibility, that he was seeking to gain control of his father's wealth, that he organized the murder of his brother and his brother's family to gain that wealth. That the motive is pretty clear. But is there any positive evidence that Zaid ordered the murder? Early on, investigators did find phone records from Zaid's phone that he had repeatedly called a phone number in Romania. And this was during the 3 weeks right before the murders. And then right after the murders, those calls stopped. Interesting, isn't it? Romania.
Yeah.
Sounds like a place you could hire a killer, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Super ethno. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm actually part Romanian. So I can say that.
Yes. Well, so did they question him about who these calls were to?
Of course they did. He said, I have no idea. I didn't make any of those calls. This is bullshit. You're trying to frame me. And back at the Chevaline campground where the Al-Hilis had spent the previous night, they said they remembered Saad arguing with someone and they thought he had an Eastern European accent. Interesting. Ooh, hey. So,
I mean, they had the phone number. Did they?
They did have the phone number.
Did they?
Yeah. I don't think the phone number was traceable to a residence. They just knew it went to, I guess, whatever the Romanian code. I don't know how that works, but they knew they could trace it to Romania, but I don't think they could trace it to any person or residence in Romania.
It's a Romanian burner phone.
I have no idea. Okay. I don't know how that works. I don't know that it has to be a burner phone for them not to be able to trace it to a specific.
I do.
Okay, then it's a burner phone. I have no idea. I don't know.
Every phone number belongs to somebody.
Gary is suddenly an Eastern European phone telecommunication
You think
expert.
It's different in different countries?
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know. So investigators wondered why Zaid had lied to them, remember, about having the strained relationship. So they're still looking at him. They think he's hiding something.
He's my number one suspect.
Yeah. There was also remember there was those attempts to tap into his father's wealth. He did the credit card thing. This is enough for the police to, as I mentioned, they arrested Zaid back in June of 2013 for conspiracy to commit murder. And then not long after that, there was kind of a break for Zaid. French police took another look at those phone records and they realized that Zaid had actually not made those phone calls. Saad Al-Hili, his brother, had made those phone calls. You're going to ask me how they know that for sure.
Yes, I am.
I'm going to tell you I don't know. But they determined with some level of certainty that they believe Saad, and that's why, which would explain why they stopped, because
from his brother's phone.
I don't know that it was his brother's phone. Remember, his brother was living there he had been locked out, but I don't know. I apologize for not knowing the exact details. I'm saying that when I was researching this, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, how can they know? But it seems to be the French police even said, okay, yeah, no, we admit Saad was making those. Still, the prosecutor, Malad, he insisted that Saad was still a suspect, but they let him out on bail. And it seems to have kind of taken the steam out of the investigations, especially the French investigators' focus on Saad. Uh-huh. And so you have to ask, really, is that conclusive? So this piece of you thought this was a piece of evidence pointing to Saad. Because you find out that piece of evidence really as incriminating as you thought it was, pointing to Saad, you see that all the time. It's like, oh, so therefore it indicates he was innocent.
Right.
It does nothing of the sort. This happens a lot in investigations. And by that, I know because of our listening and our watching 48 Hours and Deadline. But you have these things where our innocence projects do this all the time.
Yeah.
Where they get a certain piece of evidence that seems incriminating tossed out. And it's like, oh, therefore it's exculpatory. It's absolutely not. It's just not indicative of guilt, but it doesn't mean it's indicative of innocence. That mistake, that implicit kind of inference is made all the time, and it's made intentionally by defense lawyers.
Yeah.
It means nothing of the sort. So I would say, okay, throw that piece of evidence out. There's still quite a bit to say about Zaid potentially being.
I was going to say, I would say it depends on what that piece of evidence is.
Yes.
If that piece of evidence has to be connected to the killer, and you decide, oh, that's not connected to the person who was accused, then it is exculpatory.
Well, not really. No, it's not. It's not. It's not indicative of his innocence, and that's what exculpatory means. It's just
I understand
you have to take
that.
it out of the. You have to take it out of the. Say you're pro Saad, Zaid did it, and con Zaid didn't do it. You have to take it out of the pro side, but you don't necessarily put it in the con side.
I'm saying, we don't need to belabor this. It depends on what that actual evidence is.
Okay, I'm just saying this piece of evidence specifically.
Yes.
Remember, Saad had motive for sure. There was kind of these circumstantial items of interest. He had lied to the police about his relationship with his brother. He was very unhelpful with the investigation from the get-go. He had attempted to cast suspicion on others, including Moliere
Right.
as being the target.
Yeah.
He clearly was going after the money
Yep.
of his father.
Yeah. He has
I mean,
the hugest motive in the world.
By far. I mean, none of these are remotely conclusive, I want to say, but it'd be nonsensical to exclude Zaid from the suspicion, and that's effectively what the British part of it have done.
Yeah.
Some of those investigators are basically saying, no, Saad, and they're big supporters of Saad, and that's a mistake.
Yeah.
He should still be in the frame for potentially having done this. I don't say he did. I'll tell you right now, I don't think he did. But the investigation should still, until they know more, he should still be a person of interest.
Do you know who inherited everything? So Saad should have.
Well, I would presume the daughters inherited any of their parents, all their parents' wealth, whatever they had, the share of the fathers, everything that Saad had, his daughters Zainab and Zina would inherit.
Okay,
I'm guessing. I don't know.
Because the grandfather was still alive, right?
No, he was dead.
Oh, he was dead.
He died
he died a year before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the thing that argues most in favor of Zaid not being the person who orchestrated the killing, because he would have had to have hired a hitman.
Yeah.
And as we've mentioned a couple of times now, this doesn't seem like a hired assassin did this. If he had, though, it would have had to have gone something like this, right? So he hires this assassin. He finds out through, remember their mother, the computer, his brother's mother-in-law's computer tell them or somehow he finds out where they're going to be. He tips off the assassin to know what campground they're going to stay at, or at least what area, and that assassin must have to follow them. He's waiting outside the campground. He sees the BMW leave. He traces them up the Combe Deer at a safe distance. And then he pulls into the La Martinet pullout there, and he sees Saad, and he would have been in a car. They would have known him. They would say, "Oh, it's another car," and he presumably, unless he's on a motorcycle, the one motorcycle anyone's seen, we've cleared it, and that was someone else. He sees, remember, Saad and Zainab got out. They apparently looked at the map, and then he also then sees in a minute, somebody on a bicycle is going to come up. We don't know exactly when. We don't know if Sylvain Moliere came in just after the crimes were committed or just before the crimes committed. Let's say he came in before. This cyclist comes in, parks near the car, and bends over to start messing around with a loose chain on his bike or just something he doesn't know what it is. So he's going to have to get out of his car, the killer, open fire on the cyclist because that person is more mobile, then open fire on the people in either Zainab and then the people in the car, or the people in the car and then Zainab. And he's going to have to rush back to his car. Or before he leaves, he's going to shoot the cyclist a little more because they think the cyclist was shot from above him. Doesn't mean that, when they guess about this sequence, you don't have to. He could have been shot 3 times from a distance as he's bending over and then shot 4 more times from a prone position. But that could take, 3 seconds.
Yeah.
He would have had to drive off on either the public road or remember the rougher private road on the other side. If he drove on the public road, he wasn't seen. If he drove on the private road, that would indicate he did his homework.
Yeah.
Or he's a local. Then they hired a local hitman.
Which doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. And he did his homework though, because you got to find out somehow that yes, whatever vehicle you can make that drive. It wouldn't have to be a 4-wheel drive or something like that. Or maybe he had that. Maybe that's what he had. So I don't know.
But we also know there were workers out there. So they
were gone by that point.
Okay.
The ones, but he wouldn't have known. He wouldn't have run into someone like that.
Yeah.
But you'd probably assume I'm probably not going to run into forestry workers every minute of every day. So he's able to kill them in part though because their car was spinning in the sand and couldn't move. I mean, if that didn't happen, it's not clear. He would have to shoot at a moving car.
Yeah.
His gun jams, he beats Zainab viciously after shooting her once. He breaks off pieces of the butt. He leaves them behind. He leaves her for dead. She's not dead. If he probably would have driven down the private part of the forest road of the Combe Deer and had to be very, very careful and known that it could take him to a public road and get out of the area. It's also possible that Moliere did not ride up until after the family was killed. That's also possible. And then he shoots him and that's nothing's very different there. But still, And then he leaves either by the public road or the private road, and he's just now committed the perfect crime.
Yeah. I will say, I don't think every hired killer is, like a spy with a silencer and leather gloves and, super stealthy, great at their job. I think some people are just.
That's fair. But if so, even as an amateur killer, he did make a lot of mistakes. Took 7. He shot Moliere 7 times.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem very pro-ish. Tons of shots at the car, just shooting into the car as he walked toward it. He took multiple shots for each victim. He shot Zainab in the shoulder. He couldn't have been that far from her. And then he again beat her, but left her alive.
Maybe she was running.
Maybe. Now, she wasn't, because it was in the front. So it sounded like she was running to him.
No, but she was running towards the car. So it depends on where he was,
that's
right?
True. That's true. But he also doesn't spot Zena. Nothing. Let me put it this way. None of this says, as I mentioned before, you have to be a professional.
Oh, absolutely.
And it sounds a little bit like if you're a professional, you're a very sloppy one. And you're not very good at it.
Yeah. But see, all the reasons pointing against a professional hitman lead me to then why hasn't he been caught?
Yeah. And also remember if he went down the private part of the road, and it just seems highly likely that if that killer would have had to, if he's in a car, that indicates local knowledge, and you're just not going to have really, because Saad, if he's the person who hired this assassin, how? It'd be last possible minute that I need to find a hired killer who lives in the Lake Annecy region of France. It's just, it makes no sense. So. Or he gets this local knowledge somehow very quickly.
It's just bizarre to me, because we know how most crimes like this are solved.
Yeah.
They talk. They tell somebody. People just can't keep their shit to themselves.
Yes. Well, yes. But he could have been a solo person, right? He could have done it by himself. I think the one piece of evidence that points most against a hired assassin, though, is that gun. That gun is lethal to the hired assassin theory. I think a 1935 Swiss-made gun that undoubtedly would have been handed down almost certainly in the local area.
Yeah.
Again, this is not too far from the border of Switzerland. And again, he left the shell casings, he left the gun butt pieces, and the Eastern European accent who was arguing with Saad at the campground the day before. Who knows what that was, or even if it was accurate. But do most assassins, even amateur ones, argue publicly with their victim before they kill him the next morning? No. So all those things, but with the gun being, I think, not only the biggest evidence against the hired assassin theory, but also a key piece of evidence to what I think really happened and who the killer really was. The last theory standing in my mind, to me, seems like it's the lone gunman theory. We've talked about that a little bit. Some kind of unbalanced local. So he made his way, in this case, almost probably on foot to La Martiniere, and he was there to target no one. No one was a target. They're all opportunities.
Right.
They're victims of opportunity. He's lying in wait. He's got, he must be there to kill someone, because he has not just the handgun, but he has multiple clips. We know he reloaded twice. He had to have at least 3 clips, including the one in the gun. He may have had more. The Luger, it screams local.
Yeah.
It's someone from the immediate area. So some people think it was race. That this is like a racist person. Remember that they were originally from Iraq, and that maybe that made them targets. I don't think so, because if he's going to go, he's going there to kill someone. He doesn't know who's going to be there or who's going to show up while he's there. So I think they were literally, all of the victims were wrong place, wrong time by this local madman.
Yeah.
This person who just wanted to kill somebody. It explains how you didn't see any of the vehicles. They figured out the motorcycle. Any cars were explained for the most part in this. So that's why I think he was there on foot. Yeah. And he probably lived very much in the local area, or he's very familiar with the local area, or he had, out skills. He could have put a car somewhere down below where he knows he could reach it on foot, even if it takes 2 or 3 hours to get there. And it explains, by the way, why he didn't seem to be a really highly skilled professional, because he wasn't. He was an accurate shot, but not a professional. So again, I would look at somebody who had Swiss military training back in their day. I'm not saying they're from 1935, but who inherited this gun from his grandfather or whatever. Even if it was years ago, he still knows he's an accurate shot and he knows how to use that weapon. He's probably done plenty of target practice with it. It could be a French person too. You know, there's plenty of guns in the area like that. And a French person could have had military training as well. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you know if they got a lot of tips?
Oh, I'm sure they got hundreds of thousands.
Like
of tips,
people saying, my cousin has a gun. Oh. Did they know? Did they appeal to the public? Did they publicize what kind of gun it was? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because if it was a local, then you would think.
But remember, there are 30,000 of that model.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, if my cousin is a gun nut, I know he's got a gun like that.
Yeah,
I could totally see him doing this.
Yeah.
He, his girlfriend just broke up with him, and he's, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
I might turn somebody in
for sure. But you're also profiling. It could have been a person who's thinking about this for years and hasn't acted on it yet, or he's younger than we think, and he's just now, and he's not someone. He's a loner, so he doesn't have those people who know enough about him.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, that's usually how these things are solved.
I know.
Somebody calls in a tip, or they talk about it because they get drunk in a bar and they just can't help themselves. And
so if I had to do my recreation of it, I would say it was someone who wanted to just thrill kill.
Yeah,
he's local. He's he may have been Swiss Army trained. He inherited this weapon from his family. He could be a Swiss who was then living in France, but he is clearly familiar with the local area. He doesn't have to live in that local area, but he would have had some background or experience with that local area and know an escape route and know how to get there.
Yeah,
on foot, in all likelihood. Which again, the on foot foot part of it indicates that he was either local or he didn't know the area enough to put his car somewhere where they can get to and then get out of and know how to get out of there without being seen.
Yeah.
The Alhilis, so drive into this clearing that he's waiting for someone. It could have been anyone.
Right.
He's waiting for the next person to drive up to that Law Martinet and get out and be vulnerable. He knows that people park there all the time. Right, they get out and they look at the trailheads there, and they hike from there. So he knows that there's going to be a victim there in the near soon once he gets there and starts. He's probably lurking in the tree line or something like that, and along the perimeter of the turnout. And he's going to do damage. He's going to leave his mark. He's a psychotic for sure. So I think what happened is that the Alhilis got there, they parked. Zainab and Saad get out. I think Sylvain Mollier rode up at that time when they were still alive, and that he bends over, he's fiddling with his chain. The person says, okay, it's now or never before more people start arriving. So he gets out, he shoots Sylvain Mollier first because, as I've said multiple times, because he's mobile, not because he's the intended target. There is no intended target other than human beings. So he shoots him multiple times. We know that he was at least slightly stooped over when he was shot initially because he was probably messing around with his bike. There is some evidence for this idea that Mollier was there before the shooting started. In June of 2022, Zainab sort of refined her memories. She remembered a little more of the events of that day. And she said she remembers seeing a cyclist next to her family car when she was out with her dad looking at the map. So and she remembered very little more. She wasn't able to add any more than what she already had said to the authorities. But that's the point where shots started ringing out. So I think that's when he started, the murderer, and I say he because it was a he, we all know that, started shooting Sylvain Mollier.
Yeah. Okay.
They hear shots. Saad hears shots. He grabs Zainab. He rushes toward the car. He get in the car. He goes on one side to get into the driver's seat. She probably would, and he probably thinks she's getting into the car. She's not. She was unable to get into the car. He does. And his wife see that she hasn't made it, so they start screaming for her to get in the car. That's when the shooting starts. He's shooting through the windows. They're being shot. Whether he shoots her then in the shoulder and then turns to shoot the car, probably.
Yeah.
In all likelihood, because you would, if you're smart enough, you would want to make sure she doesn't run away into the forest. And then he continues he murders the rest of the family. And he kills, when he's done killing everyone in the car, he turns back to her. His gun either jammed when he tries to shoot her again, or the last shot, what would have been the last shot, into the car. He then thinks, I need to kill this witness. So he shoots her. My guess, I don't think there was a delay. I remember reading something that Moliere was shot 3 times and then later, seconds later, shot again. Why?
Yeah.
He shot him 7 times. Why he shot him 7 times, I don't know. That was the first victim. Maybe he just wanted to be very, very sure.
Yeah.
He could have, though, shot the car, and then it could have then gone to Moliere and shot him 4 more times, and then the gun jammed, and that's when he went to Zainab. So it's possible that link, but we'll never know.
Yeah.
He thinks he's left Zainab for dead. He does not know she's alive. Again, he did not catch any sight of Zina hiding beneath her mother. So he, and this would have taken, 90 seconds. Mm-hmm. It's over in fleeting moments. It's horrific how much damage you can do with a weapon like that in such a short time. So he flees back into the forest, and maybe he has shelter out there. Maybe he knows where shelter is.
Yeah.
Maybe he has parked his car somewhere on another road that's accessible. And
he had hours to get away.
He had plenty of time to get away. Absolutely. It's possible that it's very likely that he's just left the scene when Brett Martin, the other cyclist, comes along and finds everyone dead. Brett Martin may have survived by 5 or 10 seconds in all likelihood. It takes Brett Martin a moment to realize what's happened. And remember, if this is how it happened, he didn't hear the shots. He was pretty close. He may have been further away where he wouldn't have heard the shots, or he didn't hear the shots because of the rushing water that he was driving next to or riding next to on the way up to the turnout. And the killer then, he disappears.
Yeah.
He doesn't brag. He doesn't talk about it. He may not have anyone to talk about it to. He drops the gun in some lake just to be safe. He's left his mark, and he's never going to be caught. Years later, French prosecutor Eric Millard would tell a journalist that they had exhausted every avenue trying to solve this case, and he wondered if they were in the presence of the perfect crime. I don't think it's the perfect crime, but it's certainly going to be one. It's just horrible to think about. But if you don't talk, like you were talking about, if you don't brag, if you don't tell people, if you do it and you're not seen and you don't leave the physical evidence that's going to convict you, it's incredibly difficult to catch. You need luck to catch that kind of a killer, especially if in this day and age, if you didn't leave any DNA. And he may not, like I said, but it's not 100% certain that the unidentified DNA from the gun butt is even the killer's. It probably is, but it's not certain.
I don't know how it couldn't be.
I hate to sound like a defense lawyer, but there's a lot of people handling that thing. You never know if some kind of trace DNA can get onto that. You just don't. I don't know.
Yes. But you know what they do when that happens? Mm-hmm. They check everyone. Yeah, I know. You check everyone that handled that piece of evidence.
It probably is, and this may be a situation if France did have a jet match, they could catch this guy, or at least have a chance of catching this guy. Or if they probably do have a CODIS. If they do have something like CODIS, which criminals, I don't know if France does, or Switzerland does. Again, he could be Swiss.
Yeah,
he could have done this intentionally over the border to make it more difficult to be caught.
Yeah,
because it would. There's been serial killers have done that, have killed in multiple states because it's very difficult. Police departments don't normally coordinate with one another.
Yeah,
even across cities, let alone states.
Yeah.
So that's what I think happened. I think it's the local madman, in some level local. Again, he could have some knowledge of the area, possibly lived in the area, or at least in the region. And this was a non-targeted thrill killing. I don't think it's sawed. I don't think it's any of the other theories that we've gone through here.
The other thing is these typically are
not... I said Saudi. I don't think it's Zaid al-Hili, the brother.
These typically aren't, especially with this many victims, it's not a first time and it's not the last time, usually.
I know.
So it would be...
But again, if you're smart,
I know.
It's the last time. Because if you go do something... like this. That's how most serial killers are caught, when they finally make a mistake.
Well, but it's because, it's a compulsion, or it's for sure. If you have this burning need to kill this many people, it doesn't, I mean,
so
I'm not a psychologist. I haven't studied this, but I've heard a lot of podcasts and, in my true crime era, which is over.
So you think they're targeted in some way then? You'd have to.
No, they're not targeted.
Okay.
Serial killers often don't target their victims.
Yeah.
It's who walked in front of them at that moment.
Now they usually target a type of victim.
Usually
a very specific type of victim. Like that's why I hate to say this, so many prostitutes are killed because people runaways because they're much less likely to have a serious investigation. Serial killers know that. You would have to say then that, or let me ask you this: in that research, is there a person who's a mass, not a serial killer, a mass killer, and they don't need to do that again?
Never do it again. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know. I just would find it hard to believe that this person, whoever he is, that this is his first horrific crime or his last.
Yeah. If it was not his last, it's been 13 years and he hasn't done
like
something
you said,
that sounds like it.
Maybe he chose to go to a completely different place.
Yeah. And maybe it's not a mass. He's killed a drifter here and there or something like that. Yeah. It's possible. It's certainly possible. If this, to me though, it doesn't sound like a serial killer. It sounds like a mass killer, and it seems different to me.
But it's not a normal person who's walking around, living his life like a normal person, and he just decided, okay, got that out of my system.
And it wasn't like there was a fight or an argument, or he saw these people and they, he was just angry at them, and he's racist and he's crazy because he brought 3 clips.
Yeah,
and he was, and he would have had to get out of there in a way that he was never discovered. Like my theory is he probably had a vehicle somewhere in the area. It seems like there's definite malice forethought here, and that there was premeditation. It wasn't just and I don't think he was targeting them. Like did he see them in the campground, follow them up there and do this? It doesn't seem like that. That's true. Again, so he just happened to have his old handgun with at least 3 clips, and he's why are you doing that and carrying that around? Or do you, so it sounds like someone who was lying in wait to me.
So, people die all the time. Maybe he died.
That's true.
And that's why. Or maybe he moved away.
Yeah.
Or
could have been some he could have been older. It's just, you've got a gun. He could have been 70 years old. Mm-hmm. We don't know. And he could have died soon thereafter. Yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm. What do you think of that theory, though, in terms of, do you think it's a lone gunman? Do you think it's Saeed hired someone? Do you
I think it's still possible that Saeed hired someone.
We shouldn't Dragon Saeed. I'm sorry, Dragon Saeed. But I said,
I'm not dragging him. He has a huge motive, and
he did act. There's some suspicious ways he acted.
Yeah,
for sure.
He didn't seem to be the most ethical.
No, I think he was
upstanding
greedy
kind of guy,
and not super unethical, but not guilty of murder.
Well, I don't know. I'm not.
I don't know either, but I don't think so. I think that
I'm not saying he did.
I think that the logic to me says is this local gunman. Mm-hmm. This whether it's a one-off or not, we don't know. But it's someone. It's a someone who is a psychotic, and finally, it could have been stewing in his brain for decades, and finally acted on it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
So horrific thing, though.
Okay. Do we have an update on the girls? Do you have an update on the girls?
I don't.
Do you want to know what I have seen about them?
What?
And I don't know how recent this was, because I just wanted to know what, And I think it was in France. They have some sort of victims fund, and they were not paying them what they were supposed to get.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't know. I don't remember what the supposed reason was. Nobody was caught, so they can't. They're clearly victims, no matter what.
Yeah, but that doesn't make any sense. That would be disinclined the authorities from catching people.
So they had a lawyer, working on their behalf, trying to.
Do you think it's because they're English?
I don't know.
Not French?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
It shouldn't matter.
No, it shouldn't.
Any way you slice it. Mm-mm. But that's also why I wondered, what their financial situation became, and you don't know who they went to live with.
I'm sure
they're maybe trying to keep it very quiet. They have different privacy laws in the UK than we do here.
They do.
So
I'm sure they had a sister who lived an hour away in England.
Oh, that's true.
So their aunt, I would presume that's what they went to be with.
Yeah,
because they were living in England, so they grew up in England. So
yeah.
Well, that's a horrible story, I know.
It is. Thanks.
But it is a mystery.
It
is unsolved. So. It is intriguing. Mm-hmm. It's very sad what happened. It's a horrible event. And hopefully they'll catch that guy eventually.
Yeah. I mean, how many murders do we hear about on Dateline and such shows? 20, 30, 40 years later.
Yeah.
They're solved.
Yeah.
We're not even 20 years out.
They still have that DNA, so there's hope.
Yeah, there is hope. Well, I don't know.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay. If there is, we'll update it if we hear anything about it.
Thanks, Dean.
Okay.
Okay. See ya. Bye.